Welcome back to the Global Business Report here on Horizon News. All right, Guardian had a front page article on the fact that, there it is, building materials, labor spike construction costs by 200% over the last couple years. Of course, there is a foreign exchange dynamic to this. There's customs and the changes that they've made in terms of what you can pay to clear your goods. Who better than Ayo Ibaru, the CEO of Northcourt Real Estate, that blesses us with their fantastic reports on the real estate sector, to talk to us about this. Ayo, good morning to you.
Morning, thank you.
No, I've missed you this year already now.
So the last I checked, you were trying to start a bachelor's association or something.
Okay, yes, and you've been telling me I need to leave. I think
so. I mean, you've been on this
we gotta get out
for too long.
And I do all the Valentine's Day reports.
Yes, and then at Davos, you were almost freezing your hands off.
Ayo, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
What is baked into this 200% spike?
I mean, it's a number of things. The macroeconomic fundamentals have been pretty much going against a lot of development going on in the country. The exchange rate issues that we've been dealing with, and I mean, I sat down in the green room watching Chika pretty much demolish the entire. I mean, I had to check if there was security outside because he took all of them to the cleaners.
Chika, I mean, Chika breathes fire.
I mean, he's saying it as it is, and then of course there have been in-country inefficiencies that have ensured that at the end of the day, pricing has had to go up. I mean, developers are in business to make profit, and investors are in for a strong return. And at the end of the day, occupiers across the spectrum are not really looking to pay lower rent. So by and large, the framework for financing and for calculating figures have been complex.
Okay, customs in just the space of 2 days went from 915 to 1,003. We have the figures, 1,356. I think February the 2nd. And then February, 4th, a couple days after that, we went from 1,356 to 1,413 to clear goods. So what's the impact here for developers?
I mean, the reason they give for this is it's on the recommendations of the central bank, and of course, that's largely because of the supply problem. So, what I picked out of central bank governor's statements, in the speech that he made talking about healthcare and so on and so forth, was a supply problem of USD into the economy. And that's largely because our main FX earner, being oil and gas, or energy as it is now called, is struggling. We're having problems meeting up with the daily quotas, and then we're also having problems accounting for the amounts of money that we get in. So that supply problem has meant that demand, of course, is much higher and has taken the exchange rates along with it. So technically speaking, I don't think the customs have a choice, but then we really need to see a more active presence of central bank.
All right. Okay, so forgive me for asking this question, but I have to, right? So it's on the matter of exchange and real estate now. Let me start with land. Ayo, are there any players in the sector selling land in dollars?
So the default currency for trading in Nigeria, as far as our laws are concerned,
Naira.
I have to give a good preface so that I don't get into trouble, is Naira. Yes, but then again, when you look at how the figures have moved, yes, you do have transactions that are consummated in dollars, largely again because of the international interest, strangely enough, especially from the Asian countries who are looking to set up shop in the faster growing areas or the nascent parts of Lagos, the Bajuleki areas in and around the Dangote refinery and so on and so forth. They are looking to really invest heavily there in addition to their original investments. And with the way the CCP and then China and then of course the various players in their work, when they're dealing with investments in African countries, they really go big. And at the end of the day, I mean, when you translate what they want to spend in USD into Naira, it's a lot of Naira. So it's just more convenient as a means of payment.
All right, so what about buildings themselves? They also sold in dollars at some point?
Same preface applies, but then we did a study in 2020, and we found out that for certain high-end developers in Lagos and in Abuja, 65% of their houses developed went to the diaspora, and you can't expect diaspora to pay, in Naira. So that's really part of what, I mean, it's a case of those pushing the demand. They are the ones who are paying in USD, and it just makes transacting easier. And it's one way that we can get investments into the country. Now, when people talk about should we buy in dollars, why don't we transact in naira? They forget that getting USD into the country is not always a difficult thing. It's usually getting it out,
right?
Especially when you speak with our aviation colleagues. Yeah.
So why? Okay, you mentioned the higher end, but I mean, what about the mid-tier and the lower end? Because everybody's affected by the exchange rate, and everybody's facing inflation and import costs. So why are we seeing more on the high end for the FX transactions in real estate?
Oh yeah, because that's really where the values make sense for those buying abroad. I mean, when you're speaking with your average institutional investor or HNI who's living in Texas or wherever he or she is abroad, you find out that they are not even interested in certain locations. Once you go outside Ikoyi and outside Victoria Island, they are not interested in that transaction, especially if it's a residential use. Not even Lekki 1 as okay as Lekki Phase 1 is. If it's not Ikoyi, Parkview, Banana Island, and so on and so forth, then if it's not Victoria Island, to the average investor abroad who wants to spend at the high level you have represented, it doesn't make any sense going lower.
All right, you mentioned exchange rate issues. Like the central bank, of course, recently has come up with some moves to try to, I guess, improve transparency and so on. The net open positions for banks, IMTOs. What do you make of those moves they've made?
Okay, to the viewers at home, you can just watch what Chika said. He has demolished the entire thing. Now, to you in the audience, I've been in the studio. How do I say this now? Because when you look at the central bank, you do a Google search about the last 5 years, they are always announcing something. They always have some plan that they're trying to do. And we always take it in good faith. The problem now becomes what is the outcome and how consistently can they execute, and ultimately can they reverse the descent of the naira that we have seen over the last couple of months. That's really where this is. We are no longer in the classrooms or in the case study, MBA halls where you can discuss these things and then you all wax eloquent. The idea is you've released a new raft of policies as quickly and in the usual surprise and shock fashion that you do, and we're used to that. I guess the idea now is, can these things be properly monitored and can they get us the results we need?
Well said. How does the uncertainty impact the real estate players as far as where the exchange rates, the volatility and so on?
Okay, so our market has always had to deal with uncertainty, and at the end of the day, you have to plan around that. Different developers do different things, different investors go on different trajectories. So for example, you might want to take a more long-term approach if you're an institutional investor, which really is how real estate investments work. They are not a 90-day treasury bill type benchmarked type of investment, right? And then of course, when you're looking at how the exchange rate affects what we do, it does appear that bringing in money and taking it out, the difficulties that it brings just discourages further investment. Some other developers just say, look, you know what, I will only build for a certain class of clientele who I know will be interested, and then do what we call off-plan, and then get your money in and then start developing. That's really how quite a number of developers are choosing. I mean, there are other moves, but those are the leading ones.
So any other strategies beyond that for them to try to shield themselves from the FX?
It's portfolio diversification, really, because you don't want to be in too heavy on one investment. I mean, grade A office, you might want to diversify away from that a bit. Retail, of course, putting that in with a bit of residential. By the time you have mixed use and diversified investments, it does help at the end of the day.
All right, so again, we call you in whenever you guys release your awesome reports. We love diving into them. Last time we had you, you were cautiously optimistic about 2024, but then that was before all this, this effect was happening, but then now we've been in a real period of lots of shifts. So repeat your outlook. I mean, based on these recent updates that we've had, what is your update or rather outlook for the FX? For the real estate market? Sorry.
I am cautiously optimistic, but I think we can split the caution into two. Okay. Some will continue along that track of being cautious. Others can afford to be a bit more aggressive. Why do I say this? There are certain investment classes, which I outlined in our reports, that it will make sense to go aggressively on at the moment. And then there are some that it would make a bit more sense to pull back. So it's really more of understanding how the market works and then making a play. That's why the title of our Outlook report is called Airmanship, which is pretty much the aviation award for knowing how to navigate winds and so on and so forth. So there are quite a number of investments going on in Nigeria as we speak, some the sizes of which you will not believe, considering the circumstances, but it's a function of who your advisors are and so on.
Well, like in Northcourt Real Estate. Okay, so what is Nigeria's real estate market, is it still attractive?
Oh, yes.
Yeah? There's still
That's like asking me, will Nigeria win today's match? Of course I'll say.
There's a lot of confidence in this match today.
Okay,
no, everybody's saying we're going to win, which is fine. I want us to win.
Yeah.
We should.
But your question, it is. And looking at the numbers, yes. Looking at a few of the fundamentals, yes. But then looking at the kind of interest we are seeing from international players, right? If we want to go with what the general narrative is, it doesn't make any sense. But when you see the interest from foreign investments and the kind of conversations they are having, and the follow-up meetings we're having, there is. It's just that interest is not evenly spread. That's the thing.
I just thought of something because we've been on this. There's been this whole Nigeria versus South Africa thing has been going on. It started with the Grammys, with Tyler beating Burna Boy, Davido, Arya Starr, everybody else. Right now we're going to football. But what about real estate? Because your report did look at South Africa. Who has a more attractive real estate markets between South Africa and Nigeria? Because Cape Town. You're the expert here. Pretoria,
Johannesburg.
Yeah, so if you look at the two real estate markets.
We are looking at growth. If we're looking at rate of growth, then I would go with Nigeria. Again, I have local investor bias, so I would stick. But then again, when you're looking for stability of investing, yes, then you can say SA. But by and large, I will go for Nigeria because your chances of growth are higher. That's that. Right. I'm being very basic. Of course, there are things we can discuss.
Yeah, because your report goes into a number of African. In fact, I should go read that up again. All right, so we lost to South Africa at the Grammys. But I think we'll give it a win.
Did we really lose?
Well, she beat 4 other artists.
When you say beat,
she won.
Some people sat down in a room and voted for her.
That's what we had a segment on that yesterday, and it really broke it down.
I'm happy for her, please, to our South African audience. I am happy for her, but Burna Boy,
Davido, Arya Starr, Arya Starr performed for us on Christmas.
She did a fantastic job.
Yeah, she was awesome.
I watched that.
All right, so a win so we'll say that win was modeled, but we're going to give a win to Nigeria for real estate.
Yes.
And we're going to give a win for Nigeria for football.
I just don't want them to face Cote d'Ivoire in the final.
Exactly.
That country is too lucky to. They've escaped too many things.
It's amazing. Ayo Ibaru, CEO of Northcourt Real Estate. Always a pleasure having you to talk real estate. Thank you so much for joining us.